Hi, my name's Eric Haddon, Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Laval Underground Surveys, and today we are back by popular request for our second episode of Tech Support, the segment where we answer your most frequently asked questions. Let's get started. All right, our first question comes from Lewis R. Lewis writes, I went to start a recording on my RCam and I keep getting a message that pops up on my screen telling me that there's no available space. What can I do about this? Well, Lewis, thank you very much for the question. What you're experiencing is a USB drive that is full of previous videos. The way the DVR is configured to work by default is that it's going to record to the external memory device and an internal memory device. Both of those are 16 gigabytes as supplied by us here at the factory. As you conduct recordings, you will fill up those drives. And there are two different ways that you can vacate the files that are on those drives. One is to take the external drive and put it in your computer and reformat the drive or clear it out as you would any other SD card or USB media. The internal drive is a little bit more complicated. And so right now what I want to do is cut away and we'll take you to an RCam unit and show you how to remove those files that are stored on the internal drive. Let's go. Grab your micro USB keyboard, make sure it's turned on, and go ahead and hit the Enter key. That'll bring up the main menu. Then scroll down to the File Management section, and from here you're presented with a number of different options, including copying videos from the internal drive, copying snapshots, or deleting files. In this case, we're interested in deleting from the internal drive. Hit Enter, and you'll be presented with a list of all of the files that are on the internal drive. Select the one you want to delete, hit the Enter key, and you'll be presented with a dialog that'll ask you to confirm the deletion. Go ahead and hit Enter, and the file will be deleted. So again, you'll see a list of all of the files you want to delete. Select the one you want, hit Enter, and you will be deleting the file. And then hit the Escape key, and it will take you all the way back to the main menu. Well, there you go. Not too complicated, but just a little extra step. But now that you know, it won't be a problem. So thank you so much, Lewis, for that question. Okay, Charles R. writes in and says, we have a well with what we suspect might be an iron bacterial issue, but we're not sure. Which of the BoreSaver products, Ultra C or IKL Pro, would you recommend for this application? Well, Charles, thank you very much for the question. In a situation where you're not quite sure what it is, we always like to try to set you up for success. And what I mean by that is we like to gather as much data as we can initially to try to decipher what specifically the problem is. The BoreSaver products, Ultra C and IKL Pro, are fundamentally different designs, and they're really designed to treat different things. The Ultra C being the specific treatment that we have for iron bacterial issues, and the IKL Pro, the treatment that we would recommend for a mineral issue, a calcium issue, or really any other thing that we're not quite sure of what it could be. The best way to start with that process, the evaluation process, is with a downhole survey. Using a camera in a well gives you a wealth of information from which you're able to decipher and determine what exactly you need and what the best course of treatment would be moving forward. So that would be my first recommendation. If you have the opportunity to conduct a downhole survey, do that first. The data that we get back can be incredibly useful. Now, we also recognize that there may be situations where you don't have access to a downhole survey. When it comes to iron bacterial issues, we've got a great test. We call it our BART kit test. BART stands for Biological Activity Reaction Test. And these tests, these little tiny vials, will help you determine what's going on in your water chemistry. So you can take a sample directly from the well, you can place it on a flat surface, and within 8 days, if you see any bacterial growth inside of that testing vial, you've got a pretty good idea that you're dealing with an iron bacterial issue. I will link here to the BoreSaver page that explains more about the BART kit tests and specifically where you can buy them, but that is also a great resource when it comes to making an early determination as to what your problem is downhole. My third recommendation would be give us a call. If you've got an application and you're unsure how to go about treating it, you're not sure which product to recommend, reach out to us. We'd be happy to start the conversation and kind of guide you through using the data that we have available in terms of what resource and what product would be the best treatment for you. So thank you very much for that question, Charles. Our next question comes from Christopher P. Christopher writes, I'm going to treat a well with some IKL Pro, but I'm not entirely sure I know how much to use. What would you recommend? Well, Christopher, thank you very much for that question. If you log on to our website, BoreSaver.com, and you navigate to either the IKL Pro page or the Ultra C page and scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see a downloads section. Within that download section, we have 2 dosage calculators, and these calculators are invaluable when it comes to determining how much product you're going to need to put into a well. Now, you need to know certain variables: your total well depth, your well diameter, and your static water level. But if you have those, you can come to a very accurate determination of exactly how much of the product you'll need for any given application. Now, the calculator will divide the application between a high concentration dose and a low concentration dose. And the way that we like to think about these is, if you're ever treating a well for the first time, we always like to err on the side of caution and use that higher concentration dose. In the case of IKL Pro, it'll be a 10% dose. In the case of Ultra C, it would be a 4% dose. Now, if this is a follow-up treatment, you can then scale back by 50%. So 5% for the IKL Pro and 2% for the Ultra C. But again, the calculator will make this data clear as to how much product you need on the initial dose and then what we would recommend for a follow-up treatment. Again, if you ever have any questions about dosing a well or you're unsure about what product to use, reach out to our offices. We're here as a resource to help, and you can start on BoreSaver.com or call our offices directly at area code 559-251-1396. Christopher, thank you very much for the question. All right, our next question comes from Luke W. Luke writes, I have a broken camera that I need to send in for repair. How do I go about starting that process? Well, Luke, thank you very much for that question. The first step that we're going to ask you to do is to fill out an RMA, or a Return to Merchant Authorization form. You can find that on our website at lavalunderground.com/RMA. Previously, this was something that you would have to call into our office to receive, but now we've put it online and you can do it after hours, on the weekends, or even when you're out in the field. The form is going to ask you some specific questions, your contact information, so we have your name, your company name, and the best way to get a hold of you, whether that's phone or email. It'll ask you some information about the camera, what type of camera are you sending in, and then most importantly, it's going to ask you to describe the nature of the problem with your device. Once you've filled all of that out, go ahead and click Submit. It will generate a unique RMA ID. We just ask you place that number on the exterior of any boxes that you send us, and the email that you receive will contain that number, and it will also contain our return address as well. Now, some tips and tricks for the RMA. The more information that you can give us about the nature of the damage to your camera, the better off we're going to be. Anytime we've got a lot of data to work with, it helps the technicians immediately start to evaluate what's wrong with the camera, and we can get it repaired and back to you as quickly as we can. My other tip would be, make sure you designate a primary point of contact who has the ability to make decisions about the repair process. And what I mean by that is, after we receive the camera, we will evaluate it and generate an estimate as to what we think it will cost to repair the camera, but we're going to need somebody who is in a position to be able to approve that estimate. If we've got to go back and forth and find somebody who can approve it, you lose hours, days, in some cases weeks, going back and forth in terms of approval or denial of the repair. And we fully recognize that in a lot of instances, this equipment needs to be in your hands. You need to be able to be out in the field making money with it. So as a result, again, another tip of mine would be designate somebody who is a primary point of contact, who is authorized or can quickly get authorization to make decisions about the course of the repair as we move forward. Which would bring me to my last tip. The string of communication, typically on our end, once we've generated an estimate, moves very, very quickly. So the sooner that you can go and approve various documents, or if you've got questions about the repair, the sooner you contact us to have those questions explained, the faster we can get the repair conducted and back into your hands. As I mentioned earlier, we fully understand that this is a tool. It needs to be out in the field being used in order to generate revenue. And so consequently, it sitting here waiting for a repair approval doesn't do anybody any good. Well, thank you very much for your questions. If you have a question that you'd like addressed on the next episode, feel free to send it in to info@lavalunderground.com. You can find more information about our company online at lavalunderground.com or our BoreSaver products at BoreSaver.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next episode.